House MD, a TV show starting in 2004, running for 8 seasons all the way to 2012. For no apparent reason, it seemed to have a resurgence in popularity over the past year, spawning new communities, memes, and art. I had actually never seen an episode of House before the resurgence. My first exposure to it was that meme. You know the one.
This vexes me.
That stupid fucking meme actually got me to watch the show. And I liked it. Just enough that I've watched the entire fucking show twice in 1 year. Yeah, I have no idea why, but it just scratches some primordial itch in my brain when I watch this show. A quick plot synopsis for anybody who's never watched the show. This is Greg House. Greggy's leggy hurts him quite bad, and so he is addicted to Vicodin. However, he is the best doctor at the hospital he works at. Alongside his fellows, who change from season to season, he diagnoses cases that nobody else can. The majority of episodes follow the simple format. Patient gets admitted with mysterious illness, team diagnoses it, gets it wrong because new symptoms present, team commits several crimes trying to get more info, new diagnosis works for a bit, and then the patient gets worse to the point where they're gonna die. Then a conversation that has absolutely nothing to do with the patient's diagnosis. House has an epiphany and leaves the conversation rudely to go cure the patient. The end. Explaining it like that might make it seem repetitive and boring, but what actually makes it interesting is each of the characters and how they react to each situation in each case, which is mostly horribly inappropriate for a professional doctor, but who cares? Anyway, after my binge of House, I stumbled upon this post. I immediately knew what I had to do. It turns out that the game is actually free on PC as a piece of abandonware. So I had to download it and see how they were going to convert House into a game, and if it could live up to the show's standards. But before I could play it, I needed to install it using the revolutionary House MD Wizard. What the fuck is this? Fucking Greggy staring at me.
I'm gonna be a wizard, it's gonna be awesome.
Had I not known there was a Dr. House game and I saw this on my computer, I would have assumed I just installed like one of the worst viruses known to man. Okay, enough stalling, time to actually boot up the game. I name myself not Lupus G because it's never Lupus, and here we are. Main menu gives you options to your regular stuff, and it also gives you a character list which gives you an overview of each character's personalities. It's good for most of them, it fits each character well, but for some reason they emphasize on Chase's profile that he's emotionally damaged, cause, you know, there's no other emotionally damaged people on the show. Nope. Ha! I click play. It's time to become House.
Eventual election will go well, and that.
I mean, as long as I got my lunch, Lee, and
Do you have hair on your special place?
what?
Playing the actual game, we're given our first case, and it seems to be following the same format as the show. We follow a character we don't know, and we see the events that lead them to the hospital. In this case, Mr. Geriatric collapses while filming his award-winning TV show, and his team literally just films him for a shot at an Emmy. The game kind of plays like a visual novel for the most part, so, you know, I'm going to be fairly used to it. The man of the hour finally busts in to cop a feel of Gramps' old man boobs. It is fairly standard. You have 4 instruments to inspect the patient with. These patient segments are reoccurring throughout the game. For this first one, you're shown exactly what tool you need for each thing, but every one after this, you just kind of have to fucking guess. Some of them are obvious, like, you know, flashlight in the mouth, but how am I supposed to know whether I'm supposed to stroke or just stare at your leg? Wait, is that?
He needs mouse bites to live.
The prophecy foretold it. Once we get the patient's symptoms, you get your second bit of gameplay, which have extra large quotes beside them. You're given 3 topics to ask questions about. Not the actual questions you will be asking or anything, and there is a right and wrong answer. There's a bit of text on the right that tells you whether you should ask a follow-up or change the topic, but it really does not help you. Then, after a couple of questions, this happens.
What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
Right, first things first, let's get the obvious out of the way. This art style is fucking atrocious. It reminds me of that Mario teaches typing or the Mario is missing art style. It's fucking hideous, which is weird because it doesn't have to look bad. The corner portraits they use actually look quite nice. They've more of a pixel art look, but these don't look pixely as in so retro, they look pixely as in low quality shite. Differential diagnosis time. It's time to diagnose the patient. You are given a floating list of options and you have to use any medical knowledge you have to diagnose the patient, whichever sounds like the best fit. Nah, I'm shitting you. You play a game of Hangman that slowly reveals a bunch more letters, and you've got to pick the option that fits. If you pick wrong, you lose time, but you reveal more letters. Oh, that's fine. Once I get the correct option at the end, and I still have time left, I should pass.
Foreshadowing is a narrative device.
Right, this lad apparently has Penicillium marnefi. Differential diagnosis complete. And you look like a creation of Smart Schoolboy 9. Holy shit. And also I failed. Okay, that time I did just kind of pick willy-nilly. But the DDX minigame repeats several times after this, and I swear to God, if you don't pick every answer perfectly first try, you get a shit score. The highest I've managed to get is a D.
Why are you always such a fucking...
After that, foreman tells you to go draw some blood from the patient, and do not worry, you cannot fuck this up. The game literally tells you exactly what to do every time you draw blood. It's not even like there's any other fail states, like there's no timer, nothing. We then get to the B plot of the story, which is that House is interested in a box that Cuddy has in her office. And this is the most who gives a fuck thing in the whole game. This subplot advances for like 5 sentences at a time over the several cases in the game. So I literally forgot that this is in the game half the time. I'm also going to take this opportunity to talk about the game's writing. The game uses the same formula as the show, which makes sense. And I won't lie, at the start of the game, I thought the writing wasn't that bad. But as the game went on, I just realised House is an absolute twat. Like, in the show, he often says very outlandish, offensive, sexist, racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, biphobic, transphobic, romanophobic, paedophilic things. But when he says them, they're like somewhat relevant to the topic at hand, and they're normally just like, you know, quick quips. Also, he can go a couple of sentences without saying something offensive. In this game, literally every single sentence has something offensive in it. I'm barely exaggerating. Here are some of my highlights.
Who cares if Henry Richards a gay Taliban-supporting witchcraft-endorsing meth addict? Not me. No, it's not dark. You're dark. So you interviewed him.
Okay. All right, buddy.
I won't say that all of it is unfunny, but you know, seeing House call Taub a Jew for the 5th time in the span of 10 seconds does kind of wear you down. Minigame time, spin the blood in a circle. That's it. Minigame time, use this Rube Goldberg machine to process the blood samples. This game appears a lot in the game, and don't worry, the game holds your hand through it every single time. After we wrap up with the test, we're back to gathering more information. We have to interrogate the producer of the show, again, roughly guessing what options the game wants us to pick. Turns out, Something's fishy because although the show Mr. Geriatrics was filming was set in Malaysia, he was never vaccinated from malaria. Before we can ask any more questions though, the producer has to leave for an appointment. And apparently, House finds it so weird that a producer would have an appointment that he sends 13 to go stalk her. Whilst your man starts stroking out, Foreman goes to break into his house. I was really intrigued to see what they would do with the home investigation scenes. After all, they're one of the most unique scenes in the show. But once again, disappointment strikes. These entire sections just boil down to clicking on objects, no time limit, no hidden objects, no penalty to clicking on the wrong objects, nothing. Which is annoying, because I can think of 2 things they could have done off the top of my head. First of all, an I Spy type game would be perfect for this kind of task. Or, if they wanted to go even more crazy, they could be doing an escape the room type game. Both of these types of games were extremely popular in the 2010s and were regularly being pumped out, so it wouldn't have even been that hard to replicate them and put it into the game. Letdowns aside, Foreman finds a photo of a soundstage on the fridge, fucking because, and so he goes to investigate the address that's on the back. Back to House now, and I know it seems like I'm jumping from thing to thing really quickly, but this is actually just how the game plays out. This time, we're following him doing clinic duty. Again, being faithful to the source material, which is one thing I'll actually praise the game for. The patient is feeling sick, so we have to do another fondle sesh, but this time with boobs! Then House tells this girl she has an eating disorder by saying she has no ass. Back to Foreman and 13. They follow the producer lady back and find out that the old man's show has been staged and that he never really went to Malaysia. We do, quite literally, the same clicking on objects minigame we did 5 minutes earlier and then interrogate the producer. Turns out his show's been faked for years, so any foreign diseases are out of the picture. So it's back to the drawing board, another DDX time. And we come up with 2 diagnoses. Is that right? It's either Lyme disease or babesiosis.
Huh. That's what I have.
To find out what disease it is, we have to do more blood tests. And don't worry that you've already done them. You're going to be shown step by step how to do them again, making 100% sure that you don't have any challenge whatsoever. Then, I am not joking again, you have to do a lumbar puncture, which is the exact same mini game as the blood draw. More house investigations and a spot the difference game. And then, more blood tests with no increase in difficulty. I cannot stress enough how much of this game is just repeating the same 5 minigames with no increase in difficulty. I'm speeding through the last half of this chapter because of how much repetition there is. But finally, we get to House's epiphany, where we play a game of Pong, which was genuinely the most fun and challenge I've had during the whole playthrough, and that is because I could not get control of this stupid fucking ball.
Hit the fucking light bulb!
Once we complete that, House pogs and we get the correct diagnosis of tularemia. Old man admits to the press that his show was faked, and that is the end of this chapter. Yes, there are 5 chapters in total, and I played through 3 of them to give the game the benefit of the doubt, and the only changes of note were the cases, obviously, a Friday Night Funkin' mod against Dr. Taub, and Dr. House getting called Dr. Gimpy. There was no increase in difficulty. I was still being coddled through all of the minigames, and I still got a fucking F from Lisa Cuddy. I don't really know what I was expecting when I went into this, but it just wasn't this. I thought I was going to pick one type of game to focus on and stick to it. Having the game purely focus on different medical procedures, a visual novel where the options you choose change the outcome of the case, a spot the difference game, I don't know, something with focus, but it just picks a load of stuff and then half-asses all of them. I don't think the idea of a House MD game is necessarily flawed. It just so happened to be made when licensed games were being shot out without any care. I think had the game been made a bit earlier or a lot later, we could have had something serviceable. My ideal house game would be a mix between Ace Attorney, Professor Layton, and Trauma Center, combining investigation, puzzle solving, and medical procedures all into one packet. That's what House is. And look, I'm not going to go all angry video game nerd on it because as it is now, as a piece of abandonware, it's a serviceable time waster. If you like House, I do actually recommend that you check it out as a time waster, purely for the absurdity of the art and the writing. But as a product I would have had to pay money for back when it was released, I would be kind of pissed. The last thing I will say about this is, who is it intended for? The writing means that kids aren't going to be playing it, but the minigames are so simplistic that adults aren't going to enjoy it. Like, there's about as much interactability in this game as you get with Bua and Koala. Anybody remember what that is? However, there is one more House game. House MD Critical Cases was a Facebook game similar to something like Farmville or Diner Dash, developed by Ubisoft of all people. There is a small amount of footage of it, but unfortunately, on November 12th, 2014, the game was shut down, much to the dismay of Debbie Boucher. Do you know what this means? This means House is officially lost media.
Every shot, but I just like it doesn't. Like finding it doesn't make it any less.
Oh, I would love a doctor help. I would love a doctor. I'm loud now.